Who's our first question for Bryce? We're going to go to our right in the first row. And here we go.
Bryce, Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Just what you could say as a representative of this team, if you feel that this is a team that's trending upward, if you've been getting a sense of that in your time at Virginia, and if you feel like this season is maybe you on the precipice of doing something even better.
I mean, yes, definitely. Just looking at last summer to this summer, and even last spring to this spring, the sense of urgency we have as a team and how, player-to-player accountability and just how we train is definitely grown from last year to this year. I think everybody on our team is starting to believe and, starting to work like, we deserve to be, in the top, conversation. So we expect to be great, and we won't settle for anything less.
Next question for Bryce from the room. Brice, I'll ask it from the podium. I had the chance last year to be at Duke to watch your football game against the Blue Devils, and at one point during the game I heard all of this noise. I looked across the field, thought it might have been the fans making the noise, but it turns out to be the sideline. What is it about the Bronco Mendenhall program? Where's the energy coming from that you guys are creating your own loud noise during the course of a ball game?
Oh, man, I mean, we definitely emphasize the fourth side, a lot. After games, you will come in and have a team meeting and kind of just observe and kind of analyze, how effective people were that, weren't playing, or maybe weren't playing at the time, and just how, much energy they bring to the game and to the stadium. I mean, it definitely matters. You see with Duke, even South Carolina and Miami, how animated we were and how much we fed off it, whether it be offense or defense, and it just brings life not only to us, to the fans, which also is a big part of the game. So the fourth side is something we pride ourselves on, and definitely people that participate in there pride themselves on too. So
to your left in the second row.
Bryce, Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. 212 rushing attempts last year. As I repeat that number, would you like that to go up, go down, or be about the same?
Well, I didn't even know that. I mean, really, whatever the game calls for. I mean, there's going to be games where it calls for it to be higher. There's going to be games cause it to be lower. I mean, whatever the games call for, it's for us to win. I mean that's the ultimate end goal is to win. So whatever I need to do and whatever role I need to play in to do so, I'll be happy to.
We're going to go back to Dan in the first row to your right.
Bryce, on the media guide, I believe you and Brice Hall are the faces kind of split there. Just what you can say first about kind of being the face of this season with Brice Hall, and at the same time, what you think about practicing up against him and kind of what he brings to the table.
I mean, it's an honor just to, be representative of this team on the offensive side, because there's only two guys that, get to come up here. And to be with a guy like Brice, who has, I definitely learned a lot from, just as far as the leadership aspect, as a player, and how he, trains and how he treats his body. It definitely an inspiration to me. And going against him every day in spring and will, coming up in the fall, is definitely going to be a challenge, but it definitely is going to not only better myself, it's going to better the receivers, and it's going to better the team. So, we're not going to go up against a much better corner. We're not going to go up against a better corner than him. So, I mean, it allows us to get that early work on early.
Bryce, to your left, first row.
Hey, Bryce, Steve Reed from the Associated Press. There's been 6 different champions in the Coastal over the last 6 years. Virginia's the only one that hasn't won that. How much would it mean to you guys, and do you feel like you have a chance to win this division? Yeah,
I mean, we know what we have, on our team, and we definitely have the talent, and we definitely have the mindset to. And this is going to be a fact of, how hard, in late games in the season, how competitive and ferocious we take the field in those games. That's going to determine the factor. And not only that, but closing out games, we have to become a team of great finishing ability. So just keep that in the back of the mind.
Keep it on the left right here, still in the first row.
Bryce, Ron Counts, the Charlottesville Daily Progress in Virginia. Last season, maybe you snuck up on some folks, but now everyone knows your name. How has that added attention been like for you, and how's it going to kind of change your approach to be essentially playing with an X on your back this season?
I mean, I'm definitely, for me, I've always been a biggest critic of myself, and I'm self-motivated to do better personally for personal reasons, more so than, just having a lot of attention on me. I definitely want to be the best version of me I can. And last year gave me something to work on and gave me a platform to strive for this year and kind of overachieve on that. So just making sure that, I'm all I can be for this team. And I think, what separates good quarterback from great quarterback is the ability to win a championship. So, having that, as a motivation and just keep going.
Bryce, your last question to the right, fifth row, about midway.
Bryce, how much did the Bull victory and a dominant Bull performance convince you and kind of vault you guys into this offseason? I mean, after bouncing back from the Virginia Tech game, obviously.
I think that Virginia Tech loss was a great thing for our team looking and going into the South Carolina game, because it kind of set the mindset about practice and how practice should be. Coming off a loss, the only thing that's going to make it feel better is the next week after a win. So, how we practiced for 3 or so weeks leading up to that game was so, still just mad, and just ferocious. So looking after the South Carolina game, we got to make sure that, we know what it takes to perform at that level. So let's not have it take a loss for us to get back to that level of competitiveness and just start it how we should. Definitely you see, if you ever come to our summer workouts, we definitely have been trained like that this all summer.
Mr. Perkins, we thank you for the time. We'll have you take a seat, and we'll bring up Mr. Hall.
All right, thank you.
The second of our two Bryces will join us for a few minutes. Reminder, if you would, please identify yourselves and the agency that you are with, please. The second in the tandem of cornhole champions, Brice Hall, now with us. So our first question will go to Dan here in the first row to the right.
Bryce, same question for you as well. Just if you feel this team has been on maybe a consistent uptick, if you feel like you're on the precipice of something going into this season.
Absolutely, and I think anytime, we're in this league and we want to win, a championship, and so I don't think you ever, go into a season thinking that or not aiming for that as your goal. And so with that in mind, I think there is, understanding what, we did last year, trying to learn from our mistakes, and then kind of put that behind us, because I think the more you kind of dwell on what you did in the past can make you complacent from moving forward. And so with that in mind, we know what we're capable of doing, and so now we're trying to be even better than we were a year ago.
Still on the right side, this time in the second row.
Bryce, Lamont Thomas, Legacy Maker Sports. Yourself, Juan Thornhill, Joey Blount, what is it about UVA and your program that produces this high caliber of defensive backs?
I think it goes into the coaching. Obviously, I think, when you have the coaching staff that we have that pushes us each and every day to be the best that we can be, even though it's uncomfortable a lot of times, and it really stretches you in different ways. And so having that culture and being in that for a while, and knowing and understanding, because they come from a place where they had a lot of success, and they understand what greatness looks like. And so being around them and learning and taking coaching and just trusting in, everything that they have for us and what they're instilling in us, has helped us to be everything that I think you've seen over the past couple years or so. And so I think it goes into trusting and believing in what they have for us, and coming in and actually applying what they're teaching us and preaching us every single day.
Bryce, go to the camera stands in the very back, gentleman with his hand in the air.
Hi, Bryce, over here. There you are. Hi, Dave Walsh from WSET in Lynchburg. Coach Mendenhall and his staff have really preached the motto of everything earned, nothing given to you. Now that you're coming off a winning season, how much harder is Coach and the upperclassmen really hitting that message hard that, hey, now that it doesn't matter we came off a winning season, we have to go out there and re-earn everything again over the summer?
Absolutely, and I think and the thing is, after each year, we're always looking at, how can we be better? How can we improve? And so that thing is just, it's reoccurring. And so, like you said, each year we're trying to figure out how can we be better. And through the process, and one of our core values is earn, not given. And so when you have that mindset and perspective that no matter what happened last year, this is a new year, and you have to go out and earn it each and every week. And so nothing's guaranteed to you, nothing's going to be given to you. And so with that mindset and that approach, it helps us put in perspective that, we're going to have to come out each and every week and earn everything that we get.
To your left, Bryce, second row.
Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Looking back 7, 8 months, how tough was your decision to stay in school for another year?
Yeah, I think over these past couple months of me being here, I absolutely think it was the best decision for me because I've developed in areas that I might not have been able to develop had I gone to another level. Just as a leader, I'm being stretched every day as far as trying to hold people accountable to the standard, or just progressing and understanding it's not about you, it's about other people, and then also being humble when you get a lot of praise and things like that, but also being humble and being the example each and every day when you show up to work, and learning how to encourage others and communicate and share the vision. And it's taught me something that is something very, very valuable lessons that I don't know I would have had the chance to. And there's a reason that I felt like God had called me back for another year. And so I'm understanding and I'm learning that now that it's been the best decision for me. And I didn't really see that at first. But now going through it, I'm starting to see that. And so I'm just trying to learn each and every lesson through each situation and trying to learn and grow from them.
Bryce, your last question here on the left at the end.
Ron Counts, the Daily Progress. Bryce, whether it's football, basketball, or academics, the word people keep using to describe you as perfectionist. I'm curious, where does that come from? Was there someone in your past or an experience that really kind of drove that home to you?
I think just being, and yeah, there is, I think, things that my dad instilled in me growing up, and just kind of realizing early in life that things aren't going to be handed to you, and so you have to work for what you want to accomplish. And then coming into this program, being around Coach Mendenhall and Coach Howell and the defensive guys, has taught me a lot about there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do things. And so I'm trying to do everything I do to the best of my perfection. And so I have a verse that I've been kind of going off of this year, is do everything you do as unto the Lord. And so that's with that in mind, it's like, understand, don't everything, be faithful in the little things, even though they don't seem like they're important in the moment, but just to take every little thing seriously and everything and try and do it to the best of your abilities. And I think that's where it kind of comes in, trying to being a perfectionist, trying to do things the right way. And so obviously I'm not perfect by any stretch, and I always mess up and make mistakes, but it's trying to do things as best as you can. And I attribute that a lot to the coaches and how they've instilled that work ethic in us, and then also just the culture that we're building here.
Bryce, thank you very much. You can have a seat. Enjoy the rest of the show. Coach Mendenhall will come up, and we'll spend about 15 minutes with him. Once again, even though we've introduced ourselves to the student athletes, please reintroduce yourselves to the head coach. And our first question for Coach Mendenhall will come from who? We're going to go front row here. Coach, to your right.
Coach Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Your 3 years at Virginia as you head forward here. Just what you can say you've learned from your time in Virginia. You once, just a short time ago, stood up at this podium and here for the first time. Now looking back at that moment to where you are standing at that podium again, just what you've learned and what you've taken as you step forward.
What I've learned at Virginia is it's a magical place. I recently heard our university president, Jim Ryan, give an address where he talked about those at UVA, he expects us to be good and great. Great meaning how we perform, how we accomplish our tasks, how we're worthy of our hire, but good meaning the morals, values, and integrity in which we do it. So what I've learned at UVA is it does matter that you're good, and it does matter that you're great. And those are our expectations. I've also learned that there are amazing young people, bright and vibrant and articulate, and young guys that I'm really proud of. I've become connected to the 2 Bryces over here and other members of our team in a way that I'm not sure I knew was possible. Doing hard things together is a bonding experience, and it's enriched human relationships in a way that's maybe the most gratifying I've ever had through coaching. What we're accomplishing, not accomplished, but accomplishing, and what we're building, I think is something that will be looked at as exceptional at some point, and I'm lucky to be part of that. But I also, what I've learned is how difficult it is and the deficit we launched from, and it's gratifying that we're making progress.
Coach, to your left, first row.
Coach Steve Reed from the Associated Press, you talked about trying to be good or trying to be great. And I asked Brice, hey, there's been 6 different champions in this division. One of them, you're the only team that hasn't. How much would it mean to get there? And do you feel like you guys are in the precipice? Are you right there ready to take that step? And is that the goal?
So I'll start in reverse order. Certainly it's the goal. Anytime that you're part of a conference, the goal is to win the conference championship. That's one of the values of some of the value added of being in a conference is to win the conference championship. Yes, it would be nice for us to clean up this nice little package of now us being the 7th team, the 7th different team to win the Coastal. It doesn't always work like that. That will happen when we earn it and when we play well enough for that to happen. A year ago, 2 overtime losses prevented that from happening. Those overtime losses weren't accidental. We were outplayed and we didn't execute in the critical moments. But we did apply those learnings. We worked relentlessly and shut out a SEC opponent that was another indication of our capability. We have as good a chance as anyone on our side of the division to win this league. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that. We have a returning quarterback, we have a strong defense, we have a culture of excellence, and we have confidence, and we have an expectation that that's what we're capable of. Now doing that is the next part. So we're optimistic, we're excited, but also acknowledge the challenge. And as you said, it hasn't been done for a while for UVA. That would make it that much more gratifying if we are the team to be able to do that.
Coach, to your left, first row through the podium here.
Hey, Coach, Jim Hobgood, who's talking in Richmond. I was going to ask you about the overtime thing, so I might just throw that in there. Is overtime part of your game planning from week to week? And maybe just a second question. I saw you talking to Bryce Perkins when Brice Hall was up there speaking. Talk about your relationship with your quarterback and how important that is for the football team.
Addressing the first question, which is regard to overtime preparation, certainly we are adding that with increased emphasis. That's part of what happens as your program builds in competency. Games become meaningful, the type of situations you encounter become more pressure-filled, and each of those steps is qualified for. So winning 10 is different than winning 8. Overtime preparation and critical moment preparation is something our program needs, and it's something that we'll continue to focus on. And as all of you know, to win a championship, there are critical moments. If you look at Coach Bennett's program, overtime wins do matter in the quest of a national championship. If you look at our lacrosse team, overtime wins, that is part of winning a national championship. We're still in the learning phase of handling overtime and pressure-filled moments with high stakes on the line. But what we can do is apply the learnings in the very next chance we got and shut out an opponent who was supposed to be not shutoutable. And so we did apply those learnings. We just have to do that on a more consistent basis. In terms of my conversation with Brice, I'm very thankful and lucky Brice chose UVA. He's the primary reason we jumped our win output from 6 to 8. He's one of the primary catalysts for our program. I acknowledge his role, and quite frankly, how he goes, we go. That's part of being a quarterback at UVA under our system. What I was talking with Brice about, and he could probably share it as well, I was talking about in this setting to speak slowly, articulately, make eye contact, because the tendency is to race what you say, and he has a vibrant message to share. He's very wise, and the content matters, and I just wanted to make sure that every one of you had a chance to hear it. So we were talking about presentation, is what I was talking to him about just a second ago.
Still here on the left in the second row.
Doug Dowdy from the Roanoke Times. Could you talk a little bit about your schedule? Obviously, you have the 3 straight home games in September, followed by 4 road games in 5 weeks in October.
A really unique challenge. There's never an ideal schedule. And there's never an ideal schedule for an existing team, at least that I've coached yet. We have a great opportunity and a formidable challenge in our opener. We play Pitt on the road, which is an ACC opener, arguably against the 2 teams that were competing and had the best chance to win the Coastal last year in a hard-fought game. We haven't beaten them yet. It's a significant challenge, which adds urgency to our fall camp preparation. And then, as you mentioned, it's cyclical. We have games at home, which is only part of the story. Who you play is also part of it. And then to be on the road, knowing that most of those games are conference games, that's a difficult challenge. However, we've had 3 years of preparation. Hopefully we've learned and will apply all the things necessary to help us through that stretch with this team, who I think is capable of handling it, but it will not be easy.
Coach, camera position in the very back, gentleman's arm in the air.
Hi, Coach. Dave Walls from WSET in Lynchburg. Building off the schedule question, playing Liberty again late in the season. First of all, 2 parts. One, how did you find playing them late in the season? That maybe helped prepare you for those for that last Virginia Tech game and late in the season, kind of get you tuned up. And then, secondly, could you talk about playing the team again with Hugh Freeze and the additions he's made in Lynchburg?
So the Liberty schedule fits into a scheduling paradigm that I like for the University of Virginia, and that means I like close and I like regional games of intrigue. Knowing the ACC asks us to play, in addition to our ACC conference, which, by the way, I think is exceptional from top to bottom. When you count the crossover games as well, I think our league is deep. It has the national champion, and it's won more games in the postseason than any other league recently in 19. And so to underestimate what the league is like would be a mistake for anyone, not to assess it as such, which is a very strong league. So I like the idea of then playing the one other Power 5 team that we're asked to play, and then I like the idea of 3 regional intriguing teams. Liberty made a lot of sense, as did Old Dominion. And those are teams that I think tie the state together and add a different level of interest. In terms of Hugh Freeze, his track record in terms of success speaks for itself, his offensive ingenuity, and I think it certainly is what Liberty wanted in terms of a football coach, and that's who they got. In terms of the timing, that just happened to work out within the ACC scheduling construct. It really wasn't intentional. I would just as soon have played them earlier, but where it fit is where it fit.
Coach, first row to your left, right there at the end.
Coach, Ron Counts from the Daily Progress. You've mentioned in the past that you've only coached a handful of players that have the kind of dedication to film study that Brice Hall does. Was that innate in him when he came in as a freshman, or was it something that had to be taught? And how has that kind of played into his development into one of the best cornerbacks in the country?
So Brice Hall's preparation started with interest and desire. So Brice was anxious to learn, anxious to improve, anxious to perfect his skills, and really was craving feedback on how to become an exceptional player. Coach Howell, our defensive coordinator and secondary coach, provided a lot of insight. I simply supervise and architect kind of the learning process. Brice then really approaches every day as if he is going to work. He shows up early. He has his own space, basically dedicated in our football facility where he studies film and practices his craft on film and on paper, and he's there from morning till night around his classes. That's not something that every player in our program does, but it provides a great example for what I would like the future of our program to look like by more players. And when your most successful players have those kind of habits, it gives you your best chance for them to be passed on to other players in your program and then have a strong culture. And we would not have had the success over 3 years and the trajectory that we're on, which is rapid, fast, and sustainable, without players dedicating and showing that kind of initiative that Brice Hall is doing.
Coach, your last question from the podium here. On Saturday, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. And in 1962, John F. Kennedy said, we go to the moon, we choose to go to the moon because it is hard. If we reshape that and said, we choose to play football because it is hard, what is it about football that is hard?
You've touched a nerve now with me in terms of a topic I'm passionate about. I just finished reading a book that I love that's called The Obstacle is the Way. I think football is hard if the coach and the leader intentionally designs challenges to ensure that it's difficult and stretches and molds and grooms young people to do things they've never done before. I don't think all football is hard. I think there are some programs and some coaches and some approaches where it might not be hard. I think that would be doing a disservice to the development of young people. I love challenges that ask you to be and do more than you've ever done before, and that's where growth happens. And I'm passionate about the growth of young people. And so when you move yourself and 14 staff members and over 60 little kids across the country to inherit a program, that's hard, but great. Relationships are formed that couldn't have been formed before. Depth is added that couldn't have been added before. And then relationships with these players and who they become couldn't have been ever formed without taking those risks and the inherent challenges with them. And that in and itself is the reward. I can't say that winning isn't tracked, because it is. And I can't say there is security, because there isn't unless you win. But to miss the construction of hard challenges for each individual in your program and every day, to me, would be doing a disservice, knowing that the work by Angela Duckworth on grit says that grit, or doing hard things consistently, is a greater predictor of young people's success than test score or GPA. So if you know that and you care about your players, why wouldn't you ask them to do hard things, knowing it's going to determine their outcome? And that's what we're working on at UVA.